Hiya folks, welcome to 2023 and welcome to the new season, for lack of a better phrase, of Iron Horse Weekly. I'm hoping to improve my game, step up the quality of the content for you folks, and hopefully we can hit that 1,000 subscriber mark before June, hopefully. So if you're not already subscribed but you find yourselves watching these videos anyway, please do hit that subscribe button, drop a like, leave me a comment, let me know that you're watching. What we've got coming in this week's episode? Well, we've got a few things, but first, here are 5 things that you could be doing wrong with your motor railway. Number 5, your curves are simply too tight. And that's not as wrong sounding as it actually sounds. What this means is during the planning phase of building your layout, it's quite easy to underestimate the amount of space you will actually need to run modern rolling stock. As you can see here, the curve was just too tight for the type of coupling, the locomotive I have and everything else, and you constantly have to chase it and, hand of God, put it back on the rails again. Now, had I personally put a little bit more thought into this, I would have made this curve not quite as steep. I would have made it 4th radius as opposed to 3rd radius. Now obviously you do need to take into account the available space you have at your disposal, because that ultimately will decide what type of rolling stock you can run. Older rolling stock does tend to be a little bit more forgiving with those big D-link couplers. The more modern tension lock couplings and other options don't tend to be as forgiving, as you will see in just a moment. Here we're backing the train in nice and slowly, but because of the next thing on our list, this happens, and as you can see, you have a derailment and everything comes to a crash, and that is because number 4 on our list is quite simply your coupling heights are incorrect. Now, a lot of people say that Kadee couplers will actually go a long way to solving this really common problem we have these days. As you can see here on this little back curve section here, we're going to introduce some wagons, and with the Kadees there you can see that they hold pretty well. But should this be a tighter curve, what would happen is once you start to back the wagons up, the Kadees would actually, by design, uncouple, and if you back the train up you would leave your wagon in place and things, so it can be quite messy when you want to do actual shunting and you don't want the wagons to come across. And you can see here with the tension lock couplings there, I've only got the one hook on and it wants to leave. With enough force it actually will do, so that's something you need to be aware of. Now, as you can see here with the incorrect coupling height, the couplings actually override each other. This will eventually cause a derailment, or as you can see there, an undesired uncoupling. And with enough force, with a full train, bear in mind this is only just 2 wagons, with a full train it is entirely possible for this little wagon to unhook itself. There you go. I'm really not sure why in this day and age manufacturers are still having the issue of droopy couplings on new rolling stock. If you ask me, that is the one thing I really want to see from the industry, is an agreed upon standard to which all couplings must meet in terms of height, where they sit at, etc. Whether that be a tension lock coupling or a KD coupling, it needs to be unified and it needs to happen soon, because at the minute there is far too much guesswork involved, far too much messing around with these wagons, and it's causing far too much misery within a hobby which should be all about fun. But instead, you have anxiety about derailments every time you go down a set of points. Number 3, your weathering is too harsh. Now, unlike a lot of people you find out there, I am not going to set myself up as the be-all and end-all expert when it comes to weathering models, locomotives, houses, scenery, etc, etc. But I like to think the work I do is good and is done to an acceptable standard. Where possible, I look at reference photos, but sometimes you come across a locomotive or a model where you can't find a suitable reference photo, so you sort of have to use your imagination and base it off of something that's similar but maybe not the exact same. Of course, no matter which method you employ, be that airbrush, powders, washes, or combination of all of them, you'll always have the heroes out there which claim you've done it wrong, you've not done it correctly, and you've wasted your time, you've ruined your model, etc, 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 because of course they always know best. But yet these people never have their own work to show for it, do they? Now, factory applied weathering is getting better, but as you can see on the second set of wagons here, you can emulate that and you don't have to go overboard. Not everything has to be a massive rust bucket. The main thing is, as long as you are happy with your weathering, then that is the most important thing. That said, don't be tempted to just take a big black paintbrush and waz it everywhere, because you will end up with brush marks, it won't look right, and eventually you're gonna improve on your skills and you go back to your old models and think, oh, actually I could have done better with that. So just bear that in mind, guys. It's always worth applying a little bit first and then adding on later. Where you can, try and use a reference photo, and that's really going to help you get the best of your weathering, no matter what method you use. Number 2, being cheap. Imagine you just spent the best part of 170 quid on a brand new, highly detailed Bachmann model, and you want to run the damn thing. So you go out to buy a decoder, and you start balking at 30, 40 quid decoders. Or you dread the cost of a sound decoder, and so you look online and you go and find this alternative, nasty cheap thing, and then your very expensive model runs like a 50-year-old lemur with one pickup on each wheel. If you wanted to save money, it would have made more sense just to buy the cheap 30, 40-year-old models to begin with, rather than garnishing your exquisite salad with a big slab of essentially digital lard. But it's not just decoders, it's things like scenery, it's things like the locomotives themselves. Modelling, like anything else, I suppose, if you think of it, the end result often relies on the quality of the ingredients. For example, if you went and had a house built, would you rather have one made from mortar and bricks or from sand and PVA glue? Yes, the sand and PVA glue house would be much cheaper. The first time it rains, you might find yourself with a bit of a damp spot. And that is the point I'm trying to get to. Model railways are now an expensive hobby, and to a degree they always have been. Yes, there are ways around things, and yes, you can do things to save money, and that's fantastic, but there are some areas where you just should not bother trying to save money. This is my spares box, for example, and it's things that I've picked up over the years, and I have spare bits of decoders in there, bits of wire, stair limes, and it's handy to have because I've built up a stock. And when I do need something new, I check my little box. And if the box is empty, I then check the big plastic drawer of doom, which is about as well organised as the rest of my life, but there we are. But as we look inside, we can see we have wheels, we have pickups, we have decoders, we have stair limes, bits of wiring, everything I'd need to make things work properly. And all you're doing by cheaping out on things like this is just setting yourself up for a headache later on. It's much better, in my opinion, to save yourself the hassle and the headache and just get the nice things straight away. Yes, we're all on budgets, but I would maintain it's quality over quantity. The final thing on the list, number 1, and that is gatekeeping. Now, I'm not just talking about the usual gatekeeping of completely dismissing and invalidating someone that's new to the hobby by saying, your signals are in the wrong place, that line never had that loco on it, what's that GWR signal box doing on that LNER station? I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about gatekeeping itself, which might sound like a really strange concept, but if you think about it, how many times have you gone to build something and you've been really overcritical of yourself and you've thrown it away, or you've stopped halfway through, or you've decided not to do it because you can't quite get it right? The most important thing to remember in this hobby despite all the cost of the locomotives, the equipment, the community itself, everything else involved with it, the most important thing to remember is it is your railway. It doesn't matter what Pete Walkman's doing, or anyone else for that matter. As long as you are happy after you have paid your money and built your layout, that is it. Now, if you're building your layout to impress other people, then I might suggest you're doing this for the wrong reasons. There are some fantastic model railways out there that aren't anywhere near prototypical, and I for one love it because it's so stuffy shirt and dusty old man in the loft to start poo-pooing things the second you lay eyes on them. This locomotive hasn't got the right chimney height, this locomotive's wheels are too wide, this locomotive's wheels aren't wide enough, that brake rigging's wrong. The constant drain that these gatekeepers bring to the community is so inimical. Not conducive to a good hobby environment whatsoever. So please, don't gatekeep, and certainly don't gatekeep yourself. It got all serious then, didn't it, for just a moment? I know, let's cheer ourselves up and see what I got for Christmas, shall we? First up, now you might remember these from the Worley Hall video, but these are the Westall Wagon Works point levers. Gently painting them and weathering them. So now we're going to get them installed around the layout. Really nice bit of kit. All I've done was paint it with a base coat of grey and then apply some washes, which is still a bit damp. But all we're going to do is just stick it on that part of the PVA. And I think just a little bit there. We're just going to get it in place. Yeah, and once it sets, I think that'll that's about right, I think. There we go. That just adds a little bit more detail, a little bit more believability to the scene. What I did is I just cut the tie bars off at the throw end there. No issue at all with tie bar operation. Actually, Wagons Works do some great stuff, so I'm happy to have this on the layout. Also, a lovely colleague of mine got me this P&D Marsh Models motorcycle rider. It's metal, I think. It certainly feels it if it's not. He's going to go on the street scene over there. I'm going to glue him to the seat of the bike and glue the bike in place. Might have him sort of riding off the curb, dispatch style. We had a look before at the bits and people, the few of the gifts I got from Christmas. So here's a bit of a look at the rest of the wagons I got. Now, I know I've just been talking about not being cheap. Cheap is good, but good ain't cheap anyway. At Worley, I managed to pick up a Hornby wagon. This little job. Brand new. Jelly Granite Co, I think it's called. Little 4-point wagon. It was £6. It was too cheap not to get it. For £6, brand new. Now, is it the latest and greatest product from Hornby? No, of course it isn't, but it was £6. Now, you've got metal wheels on there. A little bit of basic frame detailing. And you have got the old style, big old couplings on there. But again, that's not a major issue. We can always trim those down. Or we can fit smaller tension locks under there. You can see we've got the little, if we can get the camera to focus again. We've got the screw there. We can unscrew that. We can screw any end pocket on or whatever. But yeah, it was £6 and it just adds another bit of rolling stock to the fleet. So for £6, that's a winner. Bachmann 12-ton non-vented van in bauxite. That's going to do great with the steam. Well, I say steam. The 1960s livery. The 1960s era layout that we're building later later in January. Again, I think this was 12 quid, something like that. And you've got really quite fine vacuum piping and lamp irons and things fitted to that. Comes pre-fitted with NEMs, you know what I mean. 12 quid. The bargains are out there. It's really good, very nice. Next up again, I got this from the same stand. This is a Southern Roadway 12-ton plywood vent van. Again, but you can just, it's been British Railway, so it does me. And again, this was, I think, 12, 13 quid, as opposed to the new ones, which are the best part of 30 quid now, something like that. And again, the detail is perfectly suitable and adequate for what this actually is. Again, you got brake piping fitted there, lovely. NEM pockets fitted on the underside there, that's nice. Again, all these are going to get weathered, so that's nice. Next, now this one, this is a Toad. You've all seen a Toad before. Again, this for 15 quid. Again, another bargain, brand new. Bachmann have just released their dancehall brake van not so long back. The price of that, the RRP is 50 quid. Because it's got a detailed interior that you can't even see, and I would maintain for 15 quid that has all the detail you would ever realistically need. Now, I'm not sure if these are supposed to have some sort of vacuum piping or whatever, but that's also, again, things you can add. Now, the rails are moulded, so they're not separately fitted, but they are done very, very well, and from regular operating and viewing distances, you'd be very hard pushed to tell the difference for that. And again, for 15 quid, I'm really happy. You've even got the little brake rigging on the inside there. Is that the brake? I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. Going to take that Acton thing off. Don't think I need that on there for where I'm going to run this. It's a bit further up north, so I don't think it'd ever really go all the way from Acton. But you've got the nice little tension locks on there, and that'll do nicely. So really pleased with that. I may try a technique which I've seen from the model tank world, which involves running a blade down the back of the moulding just to give it more of a relief, if you will, but that's something I'll look at later on, so really happy with that. And finally, a cheery old 5-plank wagon. Again, this was, I think, 12, 15 quid, something like that. I can't remember exactly what they were, but you know, I bet you wonder, why are you telling us how much your Christmas presents cost? It's because I was given the task of going out and buying my own Christmas presents and then handing them over to various family members for me, so I didn't actually have access to them until Christmas Day, but there we are. For some reason, Bachmann have felt it necessary to tape that one. The rest of them weren't taped. No idea why this one requires taping, but there we are. And then there we are. There we go. Look at that. Again, similar sort of chassis to that first one there. Tiny NEM pockets on there. Really good running wheels. Again, 12, 15 quid. Loads of moulded detail, but that chain there, look, see? The chain on that is moulded, but it's so well done. And of course, you'd expect this with Bachmann, wouldn't you, really? I mean, the buffers aren't the best. They're the basic buffers, but again, we can always change this. We can put, you know, chain links on there. But again, for the upcoming 1965 base layout, all this stuff will be absolutely, come out there, ideal. In fact, I quite like this. I do quite like it. And it looks pretty new. I wonder if I can weather this, but I reckon I can weather this in less than 2 minutes. I reckon I can weather this in under 2 minutes. Obviously, it's not going to be so detailed as one that you spend the full hour on, but I reckon I can do a speed weathering job in this in under under 2 minutes. What do you reckon? That's something you want to see? Let me know. That's it for this week, folks. Hope you all had a very good Christmas and hope you all have and had a happy new year as well. If there are any sort of material that you'd like to see in the videos, do let me know. I do read the comments. I like to engage where I can, so it's always good to have a chat and see what it is you good people would like to see in the future. Also, please, if you haven't already, do like, comment and subscribe. It does help me out and it encourages me to continue and go further. Now, I have got a new camera. Hopefully you've noticed an improvement in the quality of the video and the audio as well. So again, let me know if you've noticed that or if you haven't. And until next week, folks, thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.